Good evening. I'm District Secretary Nancy Campbell Hatfield. It's Tuesday, August 5th, 2014, and this is a regular meeting of the Dublin Sanderville Services District Board of Directors. Presiding this evening is President Georgie Von Leopold.
Thank you, Nancy. Call the meeting to order. Please stand and join me in the salute to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Nancy.
Director Benson.
Here.
Director Halpin.
Here.
Director Howard.
Here.
President Von Leopold.
Here. Any special announcements?
Nothing tonight.
Okay, public comment. This is the time on the agenda when members of the audience can address the board on any item that's not on the agenda. Did you wish to address the board on an item that's not on the agenda? Or is it on the agenda?
Question is, are we talking about Channel 5 and releasing information? Is that on the agenda?
Not yet. That's on the agenda.
Then I got nothing to say.
Okay. You, sir?
I believe it's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, then we'll move on to item number 6, reports.
Yes, President Von Heater, Leopold, members of the board, just a couple of quick things for you. From Wednesday through Friday, August 20th through the 22nd, CASA will be holding their summer biannual meeting in Monterey. I believe Director Von Heater Leopold, you are planning to attend. I don't believe anybody else is, but if I'm wrong in that, Nancy, I know if we can reservations for you. Secondly, our retailer wholesaler liaison meeting. This will be a liaison meeting of representatives of the boards of DSRSD, City of Pleasanton, City of Livermore, Zone 7, and representatives of senior management from Cal Water. Will be held in this boardroom on Wednesday, August 27th. Your delegates to the liaison committee on the water committee. The exact time has not been set, but think late afternoon, 4:30-ish. Confirm that time.
I have a comment. One of the emails said possibly 4, and 4:30 would just be great for me because the LAFCO workshop goes at 3 out at the Martinelli Center.
Okay, that's good. So there'll be there will be other folks out there. So we'll keep them. Nancy, can you help me keep them in? And the last thing I would note, and I think the board has copies of the invitation, but for the record, Saturday, September 13th, East Bay Regional Parks District is celebrating their 80th anniversary with a gala celebration at the Paramount Hotel in Oakland, Berkeley area. You are all invited. Cost of attendance would be on your info. And there's been only one piece of correspondence to and from the board on items not on the agenda. We'll get to the items that are on the agenda. There was an email dated July 31st from Mr. Jeff Shen to the board of directors, subject water-free urinal installation sponsorship. We already responded to that email. You should have, or you will shortly get a copy of it since it's a prepared response. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Let's see, no committee reports. Agenda management, is there anything we need to change? Item 7, approval of the minutes of July 15th, 2014.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of July 15th. Regular meeting, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carried. Move on to item 8, the consent calendar. It's been moved and seconded that we approve items 8A through 8F, which is the consent calendar. All those in favor? Say aye. All those opposed? Motion unanimously carried. Okay, item 9, for business, discussion discuss the drought management program. Mr. Mahalchik.
Yes, President Bonnier, Leopold, members of the board, if you could just bear with me for a bit of a preamble. Actually, all 6 items on the agenda tonight deal in one way, shape, or form with the drought. Just kind of a big picture outline of what we're trying to accomplish tonight, go for your benefit and for the audience. The first item is an open-ended item, talking about the drought management program, how it's going, if you have any concerns about any aspect of it, looking for any direction to make tweaks as we go forward. The second item will be a report on the water supply and demand, as well as the drought response action plan. It would be an opportunity for you to tweak, if you so chose, or give us direction. Not agendize act, but give us direction to agendize revision to the community drought emergency. This third item is a public hearing related to the Public Record Act request. This one is for publicly run buildings. And it's boiled down to just one building here in town, which is a post office. Interestingly enough, the item which I think is going to get. I'm sorry, I misspoke. C is an urgency ordinance under which we're seeking some clarification from the board as to your intent as to whether or not a warning constitutes a violation of the water use limitations. That ties directly to the public record items. Item D is the one I described about the post office. Item E is a determination on the board regarding the Public Record Act request for information about customers that have been issued with warnings or violations, and what is going to be the board's pleasure in terms of disclosure of that information. So we'll have to work our way through that. And the last one is an appeal regarding an exemption from the water use limitation. So drought night. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. The first item, as I mentioned, is just a standing item that we've had on the board since the start of the drought emergency. It gives you, as well as the audience and community, an opportunity to comment on any of the 8 or so aspects of the drought management program here. From the staff's perspective, we think overall the program is going very well. There's obviously some detail that we're going to be talking about tonight in terms of but overall the program is going well and achieving its results.
Okay. Anyone have anything additional to add to the drought management program discussion?
Not at this point. Okay, so
Okay.
we'll
Move on to D then.
B is a report on the water supply and demand management program, as well as the drought response action plan. You asked us to present this information to you on a monthly basis. In your acceptance of the report, that acceptance of the report also allows the continuation of the state of emergency, the community drought plan. So let me just go through these real quickly. The items you asked to have reports on regarding the water supply. Really, in terms of the water supply up in the Sierra, there's been no substantial change, and there won't be any substantial change until the following year. Once you get to about the middle of April, that is essentially done. One aspect that's on the horizon that's a potential positive benefit of Zone 7 is in discussions with some other agencies that could possibly result in a small amount of the water transfer, about 1,000 foot. Not a lot of water, but there's a certain number of occasions every 1,000 foot. So hopefully they will be able to reach the agreement on that. Not a big deal. With regard to water demand, the community has been responding very favorably overall to the drought situation. From the time that you declared an emergency, which was on May 5th, to the present time, you asked for 25% conservation. We're actually about 27% conservation, so we're doing very well in that regard. We are also right on target, a little bit over target actually, in terms of using the allocation of water we received from Zone 7. We're about 2.7% over that. Frankly, in the big scheme of things, that means you're essentially right on target. So I think we're doing very well in terms of this management. Operational issues, there's been no operational issues to our system or our ability to deliver water during this drought emergency. In terms of pertinent policy decisions, there's been none at your board, none locally, none regionally. However, the news from about mid-July was the State Water Resources Control Board adopted mandatory water use limitations to be applicable throughout California, along with $500 per day by $500 per violation fines for those. We've looked at our water use limitation ordinance, and we believe the water use limitation ordinance is already in compliance with the orders from the state board, so we anticipate no further action with regard to that. In terms of the various aspects of our drought plan, those are all summarized in attachment 2, and I guess I'd like to just make kind of one overarching comment, and you've heard me use this metaphor before in terms of enforcing the ordinances. We're trying to go about this in a common sense way. It's kind of like the highway patrol. Nobody wants highway patrol giving out fines for people going 67 and 65 mile an hour zone. So we focused on the folks where we really think we need to in terms of getting the water use down. We've issued about 1,000 warning letters, but the proof of the pudding there is that we've only had to issue slightly over 90 actual violations, which is $250 fine. So 80% of the people in our service area, we have over 17,000 accounts, who just did the right thing. They continue to do the right thing. So we had about 1,000. We had more. These are people that are probably busy. They have special circumstances. But bottom line is, when we warned them, they said, yeah, thank you very much, and they've done the right thing. But it's the fact that only 10% of them went to the fine stage. And even in the fine stage, we've had over 90 that have been at $250. And I think the proof of the pudding there is only 2 of those went up to the next level. So again, everybody's being very cooperative in reducing their water usage. We're not out of the woods yet. We still have potentially 2 hot months to go. And some of the reason why the overall the system is working with this kind of fact that we're at 25% conservation, which is really nice to see. So that's all I really have to say. If you've got any questions on any of that, to answer those, I recommend that you accept the water supply action plan and find that there still exists a need for continuing state management. So,
Perspective on the 1,000 acre feet is already getting, is that comparative?
well, overall usage in the Tri-Valley on a normal year without a drought is about 50,000 acre feet a year. So you're looking at, you're looking about, no, actually, you guys are 1,000, you're looking at 2%. So it's not much, but, it would be delivered at the right time, which is when we need it this summer, when demands are at the peak. So, it certainly would help, but it's not a make or break.
No, I would just want to know what drives water, the spot market for water right now is.
The water that's out there is not cheap.
And we still expect that little 5% from the state water project?
We will get our 5% allocation sometime after September 1st. There are some water quality issues in the Delta, so it may not be right on September 1st, but it won't be earlier than September 1st. There was a very slight nuance to that, is after they issued the 5% allocation after September 1st, a couple weeks later, they came out and said 1% of the 5% of the others, 1% of the 5%, 1% of the total would be delivered before September 1st. And the zone has received that.
Was there an algae?
800, it was 800.
Is it an algae problem or salt?
It's a salt problem. There are some algae problems up on Klamath Basin. And, if you're referring to the situation in Toledo, Ohio, that is very close to me, as you know, I'm a Toledo native, and actually, at one time worked at the Collins Park Water Treatment Plant. So I've been following that story very closely. Back in the day, our biggest effort was keeping the fishermen away from the water intake. No, it's a pretty serious situation. It's back on the black report.
So you need a formal acceptance, right? Yes. So I make a motion to accept the report and we make a finding that no alterations to the existing drought emergency.
What's that?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the report and make no changes to the action plan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carried. Okay, item 9C, an urgency ordinance of the Dublin Center Services District amending ordinance 334 related to enforcement actions, penalties, and provisions for the enforcement of the water use limitations during the community drought. Looking for a motion to waive the reading.
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we waive the reading of the ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carried. I declare the public hearing open. Mr. Mahalchik?
Yes, President Von Eater and members of the board. Back on May 5th, when you implemented the drought response plan, one of the elements of it was ordinance number 334, which the language of it actually identifies a warning letter as a violation. As staff talked about this issue, we don't believe that that was the board's intent, to have a warning be considered a violation. The warning is just that. However, we don't obviously know what your intent was in passing the ordinance. With this item, we're asking you whether you intended a violation, any warning to be a violation or not. If you do not intend it to be a violation, then you should express that intent by adopting the attached ordinance here, the urgency ordinance. I know you have to do that with a 2/3 vote, which means 4 board members will be present. If you decide that it was your intent that it would be a violation, you need to take no action. Of course, if a warning is not a violation, the customer receiving the warning would not be considered to have used utility services in a manner inconsistent with applicable utility usage policies under the Public Records Act. Therefore, that warning and their names would not be disclosed over the public record. So that's staff's report. I'd be glad to answer any questions. The next step would be to receive comments from the public under this board.
Any questions for the?
There for the public.
And we'll open it up to members of the public. Please come to the microphone because we're recording.
Okay, first of all, my name is John Moranti. I've lived in Dublin 43 years, same location. Let's deal with this warning thing. I was also a cop for 5 years. A warning is not a violation, period. So, to me, take that right off the table. If I have a control and give you a warning, it's not a violation. So, that is the thing. Secondly, I have a problem with, and I don't know if this is just details, but you figure this thing on 7 days, or running 7 days. So if you have one bad day or a problem, it sticks around for your water county for 7 days, which I don't think is appropriate. I looked at my own bill when I first found out I did have a problem with my pipe. And I got one day where I used 1,600 gallons. It went off 5 times in a row. Well, I didn't know that. Well, when I talked to the lady who runs the computers, she's a very nice lady, by the way, she shared my kudos. She told us how to get on the computer, look at what we were dealing with. And once I saw what it was, I realized, uh-oh, I got a timer problem. So $200 later, I got a new timer. Now, that 1,600 gallons stayed with me for 7 days. Now, if a pipe broke, you would have the same basic problem. So I asked the question, why don't you count 30 days and take a look at it? If you would have counted 30 days on my bill, I would have not been in violation. But if you counted 7 days, I was. Could have been twice. For some reason, you only sent me one letter. So I think you ought to revise that to at least a 30-day number. And I'm only watering twice a day. I've got it figured down to the scratch where I use 8.75 gallons and I use 16 minutes, and I worked this sucker out. Changed all the sprinkler heads so they're only half a gallon a minute. That costs another $60. Put 2 tents, 12 by 12 on my back lawn so that I could block the sun to try to help on the water. So yeah, I'm trying to do everything I can. my numbers, I think I'm well below even what you say we can use. I'm like 30-some odd percent below, 32%. But I got dinged because of this timer thing. Well, okay, I'm wrong. I got nothing to say. Like my speedometer's broke. I guess you didn't give me a ticket. Now, with that being said, I don't care about me personally in that sense. Why would you want to give out information to Channel 5? What would be the purpose? Are you trying to intimidate the customer? Are you trying to provide information for companies like lawn companies, gardeners, whomever, to bug you on the phone about doing something? What is your intent? Are you going to sell that list to somebody? Tell me. You have to have a purpose. You just can't say, well, they asked me.
Well, actually, you can't, because it's the state law. So we've given them
Okay.
the bare minimum amount of information we have to.
Okay,
And
let's
tonight,
wait,
we're gonna try to fix the rest of it.
let's wait till we can
But
respond.
there's an issue of intent here, so I mean,
We're not asking for the public.
No, I understand that, but why don't you just tell them to?
We can't,
you can't.
we cannot. It's public information.
It's part of the open and transparency policy that
Okay.
everybody wants.
Let's say, oh, I agree with that. We just had a discussion and somebody said, well, there was 1,000 people got letters. Didn't mention their names. 90 people got fined. Didn't mention their names. It's a public forum. Are you telling me if I ask who those people are, you're going to give them to me? I don't think so.
If you ask for the names of the violators, we would give them to you just like
We have to request, that's part,
I
as
consider
Don
it.
just said, it's part of the laws that we've enacted collectively to require public agencies to be transparent. So everything that happens here is open to you to look at it at all times.
I mean, these are good, very good comments, and we need to be sympathized with them. Understand.
And we actually agree.
Process-wise, we're focused on the ordinance right now, sort of on whether a warning is a violation. Actually, if we get past that issue, it will take the 1,000 names off the
Yeah.
Off the
table.
list.
Or how about giving 2 warnings? I mean, until I knew I had a problem, the first one was, you know, okay, it's blue, what do you want me to do? But it seems to me, if there's a reason, you might want to give a second reason, or a second warning. If you change the ordinance to read, I gotta have 2 warnings.
Well, that's part of what we're doing right now, is
Oh,
is
then I'll
just.
shut up and get it done.
Okay. Anybody else that would like to address the board, please come up. On this item, yes, on this item, which has to do with whether or not the warnings constitute a violation.
Actually, this is my first understanding in front of anybody speaking, but
Okay.
I keep getting these letters from you guys, and my husband and I, we've been living in Dublin for the past, I don't know, how many, 15, 20 years. We've never had any violation of any kind, but 9 months ago, my father ended up being very ill, and with my mom, they moved into our house, and then the entire family are coming and visiting, and it's a very, very crowded house, so I can tell you this. And we go to work at 5:30 in the morning, we come home at 7, but the house is crowded, brother goes, sister comes, sister goes, brother, just to visit my dad. And it's getting a little bit out of control. We have to shut down all the waters for my beautiful backyard, which we spent $2,000-3,000 for the roses, but they're all dying down. And we really don't know how other way we could, control the water, even though we've changed everything as much as we could in our power. But
Have you received just the one letter?
we did, but I have a feeling we're going to get another one because it's a full house. And it's really, I can't just keep them out because
Have you set yourself up to go online and look at your usage? You can look at your usage daily and know if you're going over. Have you done that?
well,
We have, good evening. I used to live in Chicago. I'm understand why, what California is going through. I want to abide by all the rules, and trust me, I've been to a lot of board meetings. I used to be a board member myself. I Red Cross and different things like that, so I understand what you guys go through. You have to do your job. On the other hand, like gentleman said, there are exceptions. There are things that goes wrong. For example, I was traveling when we got the warning letter. My wife told me about it, and then I went and checked out and found out they say, well, you are watering almost every day in the backyard. Well, I had a gardener who set up the backyard. We just bought the house, this new one, about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. So I never really before checked it, and I had programmed it for 2 times a week because that's what it was. I think it had said July or something. I had got it. Oh, I think it was July. Or I guess it was 2 times a week you could do that. So I set it up. The problem was that there was somehow a program in there that did it twice that day. So it was like 4 times a week. And so I had to go, what I did is turn off everything. So everything's turned off now, nothing in the...
In my backyard,
Right.
the ugliest thing you
Right.
could possibly, it's just desert,
Well,
from
well, we
there.
have to abide by rules. So nothing in front, nothing in the back, we turn on automatically. If I have to water a little bit, I will do a little bit, that's it. I will go online, you can get it online, so I can go do that and check out. The problem is that we have 12 people in our house, we can't take them out. And trust me, every day, I try not to, but you go to work, you go to a lot of big meetings, I have to take a shower, so I don't do it every day, but, so I will abide by the rules, I just need to know what I need to watch for, and what I need for, what are the limit, I will read, go online, read everything, what it is and all that. But again, it's kind of new to us, I'm not used to it, but.
Okay, set your account up online first of all, and then talk to our customer service manager. She can talk you through some additional things you can watch for, how she can let you know if you're in a bad situation already.
I already
Again.
did that. I stopped by, I took a half a day off because I work in the city.
Okay.
I came and she asked me to fill out the paper and
Uh-huh.
explain. My brother and his family just immigrated from
That's
you know,
why you
and
had-
yeah, it's
Okay.
full house, 4 kids, we're not used to kids, 5 kids running around, and it's different.
What did she tell you?
She said, just to be honest with you, the way she spoke to me, like, you're a done deal, you know, because you already got before me. But just write the explanation anyway, they might consider you, that's not what I was there. I was just begging for help because I don't like to open my, I don't mind paying for the water, but at the same time, I want to help my city and myself.
But you've only received the one warning letter, is that
Yeah,
correct?
plus this one that it says Channel 5 is going to get my information, so it's just,
Okay.
and it's really annoying that every time I go open the mail, I feel like, it's like a speed ticket that,
Well, the thing we're discussing tonight is whether or not we consider a violation to be, a warning to be a violation. If it's not a violation, Channel 5 is not going to get anything. Channel 4 or 3 is not going to get anything if you've only received the one letter.
That's not really, to be honest with you. You said it's public information, that's not my concern. My concern is like,
Well,
I
we
don't
are
want.
concerned. I don't want to.
Yeah, but I don't want this to be a
Trust me,
habit.
the day I do that, I'll move out of this. Trust me, I will. I can go somewhere else, but I've never in my life, I've lived in this country 42 years. I've never heard that before. And our city where I live, in Chicago, a lot of we had a lot of big problems, but we try to solve it among yourself. We don't want to keep that up. It's not good for the city, trust me. It's a bad name for Dublin, Pleasanton, okay?
I couldn't agree with you more personally. The board has not discussed that yet,
Of
but
course, but I hope they
again,
consider that because it is not good publicity for the city. This city is expensive already to begin with, among to other cities with other taxes, all that stuff. I'll put up with that. That's my decision. I want to live in the city, and I like the city. I had a chance to go live in Pleasanton, but I have a lot of friends here, so I live here. So I don't think it's a good publicity for you guys. The traffic is already bad. It's a good city. A lot of people. I want to get an apartment for her brother. It's expensive. it has gone up. So I don't think you want to do that, it's not good, so I would recommend,
Okay.
give the people a chance. And then if they don't do it, of course, you have to take measurement because we are short
Okay.
of water.
But how do we let people know that for now, I have four people living in my house? How do I take care of that? How do I-
Good problem.
You write a,
Did you write a letter?
I did
Okay.
write a letter, and I begged them to consider us.
You'll recall that the drought, the water utilization ordinance has an exemption process.
Right.
You just cannot deal with 17,000 situations.
Right.
So there's what they call an exemption form that's on the website. If you can't find your customer service people can direct you to it. But that sort of exempts you from specific elements of our water.
I did fill up that form,
that's what
I'm
you
trying to
filled out,
say.
yeah, so you should be okay.
Yeah, you should be
Well,
fine.
I don't know if he has that age.
Where we are.
Could you give your name and address, please? and we'll check
I
with
will
them?
find, yes.
We can do that, we just want to make sure that's
Okay.
done.
Give it to either John or Dan, and they'll check the records and see
Now.
where it is. Yes, now.
Yes, or staff is in the back, they can help you.
Thank you so much for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you. No, no problem. That's what we're here for, is to listen to
Thank you,
you.
and to be honest with you, the kids are running around, they just keep coming from Europe visiting. I'm supposed to take care of them after
You need
5
to
hours.
put up a no
11
vacancy
hours of
sign.
work, now I have to take them sightseeing. I said, no, I have to take care of the water first before you guys go.
Also,
back there and-
check, do you guys have, we also offer free devices. So if you need like hose nozzles that have a
They
shut off
change
valve.
everything that people
Done
just
all
with
that.
this fire of clothes. I mean, they see us, they go, water problem. I mean, every day we're spending so much money. But at the same time, again, I do not want to get any more leather, and I'm begging you guys.
And we have some materials too to bring the kids in.
Pardon me?
So we have kids materials where kids can actually learn how to, and make it something special in your house. Make it a game. Enroll them.
That means I have to work 24 hours in this.
Okay, let me
I
remind
appreciate your
everybody
time.
again, we're talking about the ordinance that has to do with making sure a warning is not considered a violation. Right now, the way our ordinance is worded, our legal counsel has interpreted it to mean that in fact a warning is a violation. Because of the Public Records Act, we would have to release your name and address, name and city, pardon me, to the TV stations that have requested it in one newspaper, okay? That's all we're here at this moment to discuss. Anybody else like to address this? Yes. Okay, come up here, please.
Good evening, my name is Doreen Green, and I've been living in Dublin since 1965. So I've seen this city grow from just a little community, which was lovely. And now we are so inundated with people that we still can't provide water and sewerage, even when we're not in a drought. I also got a nice little letter saying that I was using too much water. My big problem was I had a pool with a big leak, which I have resolved. But my main concern with this is that you are giving away my private information. You're contravening my rights. And I strongly object to that because I live in a house by myself. And I'm an old lady. And there's a lot of funny people out there. And they will be going out there and they will start to get together that they are going to show these people who are contravening the law at the moment. And I do not want to have somebody arriving on my house and taking it out on me. And I object to it. In the meantime, I have had the letter that was sent to me waived, so that I'm no longer, it's no longer on my account. So if you have already given this information to these very nosy television programs are, all they're doing is trying to stir up trouble. And that's all they're doing. And if you've already given it, and I understand you already have, well, I am no longer contravening the limit. So now you have given out my information, and I shouldn't have.
If I
So
can-
what are you going to be doing about that?
If I can interject, if somebody was issued a violation, the violation was waived, their name has not been given out because there is no violation. It's waived.
Well, you
said
were,
this information's been given out, has it or hasn't it?
as I understood it, that was being given out before this meeting.
Let's
If
clarify.
And it's being given out on
Okay,
Friday.
Let's clarify one thing. Okay, there's warnings, there's violations. State law required us to give out the names of the violations. We have not given out the names of the warnings.
Except that if you were issued a violation, that violation was appealed and it was waived, the violation no longer exists, the that name was not given out.
But violations have been given out.
Yes, it's
The
already
names,
gone.
the names have,
Yes.
not waived.
But she only got a warning letter, right?
I got the first letter warning me that,
Yeah, she only got, that's all you've got.
That's all I
Her
have.
name has not, she just got a warning letter, but the name has not been released. Pending divorce.
We only released the actual violators.
So what did you constitute as a violator?
Anyone who got a fine?
So it's somebody that has already had a fine?
No.
Yes.
Well, at this
Somebody
point,
that's-
yes.
Yes.
The first step is a warning, written warning. If you've been issued a written warning, your name has not been released.
I was advised when I came down here that it was going to be released.
It's considered, the board is considering that very matter right now, but as of this moment, your name has not been released. Our recommendation to the board is not to release that. I can't make that up.
I would agree with that, absolutely.
I can't make that decision, that's the board's decision, that's my recommendation. If you went beyond the violation, if you went beyond the warning and were issued a violation, you got the warning from the police officer and sped off and chased you down and issued you a speeding ticket violation, and you did not appeal that violation, then your name, just your name and your city of residence was released under the law. If you appealed that violation, your name has not been released.
Well, that came after the fact. When my daughter and I came in last week, we filled out the form. But then we were told that it would be submitted to be reviewed. But on Friday, it was, all the names and addresses were going to be released. So which is going to be free this meeting.
Only if you were issued a fine. If you were issued a warning, your name was not released.
With all due respect, that's not what the letter said.
I think the
I'm trying to remember my recollection of my letter.
The letter that came out, my name is Carrie Green, I'm Mrs. Green's daughter. I too have lived in Dublin my entire life. The letter stated that her information was going to be released on the 25th. It did not delineate between violations or receipt of that letter. And actually, with all due respect again, it's very concerning that this group of people who are representing us do not know what that letter says and don't know what has been given out.
It's actually included in their agenda packet. They were given a copy of that letter when it was sent out. I'd like to-
Perhaps they should read it.
I'm going to try to
Okay.
find it. Here's the
Let
letter.
me clarify. At that point in time, it was possible that all names may need to be released. And so on Friday, I think it was
25th. It was the 25th.
Friday the 25th, it was decided that only the names of the violators would be released, and the names of those with warnings would be held back until this decision right here and now is made. So we put off making that decision.
The letter is attachment 4 to your staff report.
And how do we validate that that's in reality?
Wait a few minutes and we'll pass the motion.
No, I mean, that it didn't go out.
The letter that was sent to the TV stations is also.
So I think everybody in this room will agree that there is a deep amount of concern of handing out people's private information. And I think that there's a lot of people in this room that would say that detail is not required to broadcast the news.
Well, here's the thing.
Right, but I also understand the law. And I understand
Yeah,
that.
we have-
Unfortunately,
We
yes,
have
have
to
to abide.
release some amount of information. This notion is whether or not we want to release additional.
Correct.
So we did not release the names of the warning letters. We held back.
So, based on what you told us this evening, perhaps what you should consider is redefining what the violation is, and
That's
whether or not,
exactly right.
and perhaps make it a more severe violation if that constitutes when you become.
That's
Well,
exactly the definition.
not just the warning, but
Right.
perhaps it excludes letter number 1 that allows these people to get their water dissolved.
We are redefining the term violation. When legal counsel looked at it, it was determined that warning equaled the violation.
Who's your legal counsel?
Well, right
Sitting
now,
right
it's
here.
Mr. Nelson.
President Von Huber, if I could, for the audience, we're going to do this step by step. The very first step is that we asked to consider is whether a warning is a violation. That's what your comment is. If they decide that a warning is not a violation, none of the names or addresses or any of the other requested information from the people that were warned will be released. At that point, then they'll go on to the second part of the request, which is the fine. So they'll look at the $250 fine, should the addresses, et cetera, be released. And they'll make that decision, and they'll go on to a $500 and decide if that information should be released. So we have to kind of step through this one step at a time to be responsive to what we can ask for.
Well, it seems to me that it would be better if you would only release that information if these warnings were not adhered to and it became progressive.
That's
And so-
exactly, that's
and-
exactly.
and
exactly
it was
what
very-
the
and
ordinance
being a very severe
That's
transgression.
my recommendation.
And not do it at the beginning level, because I resolved my problem. But you giving away my information makes me very nervous indeed, because we have too many funny folk going around anymore.
We agree 100% with you, and that's my recommendation.
And that's why the ordinance is on the agenda tonight for us to change it. Because we had no intention that, well, I believe, I mean, we haven't discussed it yet, but I believe we had no intention of considering a warning letter to be a violation. Just as he said, you get a warning from the cop when he pulls you over. You get a ticket, it's not written down anywhere.
Exactly.
That's what we intended, but the way we phrased it in that initial ordinance didn't interpret that way, and so we're fixing it tonight.
But I think you've got to go one step more, not go to the first time that they're fined. You've got to allow them time to resolve the problem that they have, which I have.
At thousands of dollars, she spent as a single person on a fixed income, thousands of dollars to fix this as quickly as she could possibly fix it, and learned to log into this computer system to watch every gallon. It was amazing. I mean, I only took it to my home, just to say, look, take a shower at my house. And, it was almost to the point of ridiculous, because she did not want her information released. So, if you could reconsider the way that you define that term, we would be hugely appreciative, because it is the security and safety of the people that live in your town, because there are some crazy people out there that are going to do crazy things.
I'm not even comfortable with the fact that we had to release our addresses and usage. That
Yeah, we did.
bothers me,
Yeah.
not
I'm
because,
fine with it.
and I had excellent usage, But it bothers me when my address is out there. There are crazy people around.
There I
You
am.
can't come up to a solution to this.
We can.
We did.
To a solution if they can't vote on the matters that are before them.
Let me also,
You can't come up with the language.
However, sir, you have asked us to provide you our feedback, and that
Yes,
is exactly
thank
what
you.
you're getting.
Exactly, perfect.
And I have a
Thank you.
comment, and I will say that too, is that I'm personally concerned for our people as well. And that's why we're bringing this to the board tonight to make these decisions. The Public Records Act is interpreted by thousands of lawyers in this state. And and every lawyer has their opinion on it. And it's to protect the city, or protect us, and protect the customers as well. So and there's lawsuits that happen, and so there's all these factors that weigh into this. Personally, I don't want any of my constituents' names and phone numbers out there. I think that you as citizens need to contact these newspapers and articles and go after them, because I know my husband is in the press. They would never ask for that information. These requests are coming from high above, and they're asked for sensationalizing this particular event.
And we had good information, so they didn't have anything really bad to publish.
But they did knock on people's doors. I know personally of people who were knocked on doors by the press.
Yes.
So if you look at so I'm just telling you this, and because it's the truth, they can get any kind of information off the internet by giving a name and a city. So that's one of the concerns I have tonight. When I saw this letter come out, I immediately called and I immediately emailed our GM and said, wait a minute, can't we push this off? And according to public, we had pushed it off long enough where they were threatening us. So, I mean, that's why we're having this discussion tonight, to make sure that we protect you guys.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're on your side. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, any more public comment?
I'll second.
We moved and seconded that we close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Okay, now again, remember, this requires a unanimous vote because it's an urgency ordinance. So it has to be 2/3, and because Mr. Doherty's gone, means we have to all agree. Okay, let's discuss.
A couple of quick observations. One, welcome to the Public Records Act. It cuts many ways. Everybody up here's salary and name is published on the internet every year. You have to comply. We were issued lawful requests by some music receipts, and we complied bare minimum that we had to. Now we're going to try tonight through a series of actions to minimize the impact to our community by codifying why we're going to react to issue the bare minimum information to this part of the state law. That being said, warnings are warnings. Warnings are not $0 violations, as I think the ordinance has been written. So I'd like to make a motion on this urgency ordinance that we accept it as drafted and turn warnings into warnings.
Second.
Okay, further discussion? I'd just like to comment that I wholeheartedly would agree. We intended, I'm sure, that our warnings were to be warnings, not interpreted as any kind of violations. We expected the violations to carry monetary penalties. And so this will correct or define any misinterpretation, and we will not have to release those names and cities. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carried.
Now read your attachment 1 to this board item, which is 9E, and those are all the public records requests are in there.
Okay,
So very
it's
good.
possible to, in your voting, go to 2 warnings, like the lady said, and then ding them?
That
Sometimes you don't know you got a problem until you tell them.
You can give us direction, we have to agendize that as a second amendment to the ordinance session next week. Technically, what you can do is go back to item 9A and give us direction. You can't go around tonight, you can go around.
Oh, go ahead and break the rules of good.
We can't act on it tonight because it's a Brown Act issue. It has to be posted on the agenda. But, yeah, it's not legally binding. So, does anybody, would you like to bring it back for future discussion?
Let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
Yeah or no?
Let's get through the next couple.
I think we've, with all due respect, like he said, 90% of the people have paid attention to the first 20, and nothing's happened since, and there's only been a very small number of people.
Oh, getting to 10%, I don't have a problem. You guys out there not following the rules.
Well, that's where we're at.
That's where we're at.
But I'm saying, if you're going along and something breaks, I'm gonna fight, but...
That's where the appeal process comes in.
Yeah.
Okay, now I've never heard of that appeal process.
Well, not
That
only,
surprised me.
there is a process where something extraordinary happens, you can appeal, say, a pipe broke. And not only is that true now during this drought, it's true in general.
It's true in general, yeah.
Well, I didn't read it anywhere.
Are we on the agenda?
I think we're a little off
Yes.
the agenda, we should probably move on.
So, do we want to add it or not?
No,
that-
just move on.
No, I mean the future.
To the future.
Want to discuss the second time, the first?
I don't think you can do that.
You don't want to do it?
Wait, at some point it's a violation. We can't waive it. We can't turn a violation into not a violation.
Okay.
And if we're-
Do you want to add it to a future discussion?
I might do that.
Do you want to add it to a future discussion? Okay, I don't think we need to discuss it either. You can follow the process of a board member adding something special to the agenda and get your answer that way. Okay?
I think it's.
All right, now, let's
I just want to add one fact. There have been, the location for it's called the waiver. You can find it on our website or call our staff. We've actually had 38 waiver requests and 13 of those were approved. The rest are just the rest of them.
I'll look it up.
There's two things. There's the waiver of a violation, and there's also the extension from the use restrictions. Those are two different ways you can approach
Two
it.
different tools.
Two different tools you have. There's information on the website, and there should be information from
I just call
customer
customer
service.
service.
Customer service will be able to help you.
Okay, now, does that relate to what the lady and man had to say about the 12 people in the house?
Yes, they would apply for an
Because that's
extension.
impossible.
Pardon?
We've got it down where, wife and I, there's just 2 of us in the house, and, I mean, it's 250 gallons a day no matter what. So,
Well,
I mean,
there's
you
2 of
have
us
to
and we're down
multiply
to
by
about
6 a day.
110, so it is possible.
When you're doing your washing,
Yes.
it is.
We need to
No, I
continue
don't
on
think
the
it is
agenda,
possible.
okay?
So, give them a break. I shut up, sorry.
9D. We're on 9E, right? No, 9D, sorry. Okay. This has to do, this is another public hearing.
We done with this?
We still have more.
No, we're working on it.
No, we still have
Just
more.
did the first time.
Agenda item 9D. Determine whether the public interest in disclosure clearly outweighs the public interest in non-disclosure of customer name, address, and utility usage, and correspondence with customers who operate publicly run buildings. Okay, I'll declare the public hearing open.
You should probably solicit a motion to waive, or there's no ordinance.
No.
There's a
No.
license.
Okay.
Okay, President Von Peter and members of the board, two of the Public Record Act requesters, NBC Bay Area and Bay Area News and Contra Costa Times, are seeking information, customer names, addresses, utility usage, et cetera, for those customers who operate publicly run buildings. Buildings like this, the city of Bethel, the school district, government facilities, et cetera. Those publicly run buildings in our service area are listed on the summary rec sheet over here. As a courtesy to the requesters, and since these are public agencies, we reached out to the public agencies and asked if they would consent to the release of their information, because after all, if the Public Record Act request was made directly of them, they would be compelled to comply. I reached out to all of them. All of the executives from all of the agencies agreed to the release of their information. So to that extent, the board needs to make all of them at once. So to that extent, the board needs to make no determination. We have released the information as requested for all of them, with the exception of the California Highway Patrol, whose petition just came in last week, Friday or Thursday, so they have not yet released that information just administratively. We also have not yet heard from the postmaster. So really what this is coming down to is a public hearing for the board to consider whether or not to release the information, the names, addresses, and utility data for the post office here in Bethel. And if you choose to do so, you need to do so on a 2/3 vote, and the test that's set up in the Public Record Act is whether the public interest in disclosure of the information clearly outweighs the public interest in non-disclosure. So you basically deal with the post office.
Okay, any comments from the public?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Now we're getting down to business. What are the requirements as far as businesses within the city? I manage warehouse and office buildings. And so we have multi-tenants. As the owners of the building, then the water bill comes under the owner's responsibility.
Your name, nobody else has meters.
No, there's only a meter to each building.
Mr. Gallagher, maybe you can answer the question.
Well, this particular item is only for publicly operated buildings, so that would be government agencies. It doesn't apply to private.
So commercial buildings are not being,
Not on this agenda. The next one will be a different case.
okay, so I'm going to come back again.
This is just the
Sorry.
This is just the post office.
Just post office, okay.
Yeah, this is publicly run businesses.
And we understand the confusion. This
Yeah,
is
this is
pretty
commercial.
complicated. Hopefully we can walk you through these things one by one in the proper order. This is just the post office.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Any more comments from the public? I'll move to close the public hearing.
Yes.
Moved in a second that we close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carried. Okay, we can discuss. I don't think there's really going to be that much discussion as far as I'm concerned. The post office should be subject to the same rules as everybody else.
Right. They should be sued.
That's the problem we give them.
It was nice, it was nice, it was courtesy of my staff to go to the news organizations, work with them. I don't think you would do that if they want to serve a attack on the post office to get those data.
I don't know if that applies.
Yeah.
Also, federal public building?
That's the water.
It's a California law. As a-
Does it apply to
as
a federal
business
building?
in
Apply to-
California,
wait a minute.
operating facility.
Mr. Nelson, please clarify.
Stop.
Request could be made under the Freedom of Information Act in any event, whether it's in the state or not.
Okay. Well, let the news make it. Yeah, so I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'm going to do a little editing.
All right.
So the resolution as presented with, on page 2. Item 1, struck as declared. So it'll read, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Directors of the General San Luis District, public agency, blah, 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 that for all other requested information related to the public buildings and in accordance with government blah. The board hereby determines that the public interest in disclosure of the information does not clearly outweigh the public interest in non-disclosure, and as such, not disclosed.
Member Elkett, just for clarification, read the first couple of these for all other requested information or for all requested.
Well, the way it's written, we can talk about it.
And then you want to make specific other information to other public buildings.
No, if they want to follow along, they can go.
Well, that has been posted.
That's already been,
So-
it's already been done.
Right.
So your decision here is just regarding the post
Moving
office.
forward.
So we already released all the information of the other public buildings, but,
Because we asked for that permission, which I would have done, but staff did it on their own.
I might suggest we ask for clearance that related to public buildings related to the United States Post Office. Is this a-
in number 2,
Yes, that would be related to the United States Post Office in Dublin, California.
James?
to
I don't think it's the.
Dr. James Cohen, public.
Nancy, did you get it out to draft that?
Were you modifying 1 or 2?
I struck one.
Struck one and it was modifying two to read, as I understand it, as follows: for all requested information related to the United States Post Office in Dublin, California.
So we're not going to release the information of the post office?
They didn't give us.
I understand that was his motion.
They didn't give us permission, so why would we release it?
Any more than we release other people, because they didn't give us permission.
Which one is June about?
Got my vote.
10 minutes ago.
So that's,
Yeah, motion on the table?
I
second.
So moved and seconded that we, let's see, adopt a resolution as changed by Director Halkett. Did you get what he said, Nancy?
I think it's just item number 2, and it should read, for all requested information related to the post office in Dublin, California.
U.S. Post Office.
United States Post
United
Office.
States Post Office in Dublin, California.
Okay. And number 1 is stricken. Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carried.
Draft on the fly.
All right.
Now we're going to number 3.
Now we have item 9E. Hold a public hearing to determine if in the public interest in disclosure clearly outweighs the public interest in non-disclosure of street addresses, utility uses, warning citations, and correspondence with customers who have violated the water use limitations. Okay.
Mr. President, Peter, members of the board, we talked about this a lot already tonight. Now is the time the board's going to make a decision on this. Specifically, what we're talking about are the 3 public record act requests, which are consistent in this regard. The 3 public record act requests for the NBCville area, KP.XTV5, and cost of times. And they asked, in addition to the names and cities of residents of folks who have been issued violations, and now with your action a couple items ago, warnings are not violations, so that information will not be released. That's all. We're just talking about people who have issued $250 to $500 fines or anything later. You're considering whether you should release the addresses, the water use consumption, and the correspondence with those individuals that are defined at that level. For your use, we drafted a resolution, which is sort of a menu here of a resolution, so you can go through, because we anticipate that there was going to be some controversy with this, and you can go through that resolution and strike, for example, if there's everything with warnings, I think we've offered now should be stricken. For the $250 fines, you should consider whether their addresses should be stricken, whether their water use consumption, whether the correspondence with them. Just go through each one of those, 250, 500, and 1,000, as well as show laws for each of the pieces of information requested. Go through those. Hopefully, we'll get a motion that will encompass all of that and the resolution. And of course, it's a public hearing, so.
I'll declare the public hearing open. Okay, so This is time when the audience can comment on item 9E, which is releasing all of that information for customers who have received violations. That's what this is about.
So, I don't think there's anybody here that's in there, but I am going to ask the question because I do feel that when you are a monopoly, you don't have the option to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
That you are, in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, held to a higher standard of protecting people's information. In the banking industry, we're highly protective of people's information. And I know there's a whole other set of rules and governance around that. However, I don't believe that it's your job to provide people's personal information. And I think that if you have an option to not do that, I would recommend that you take that option to not do that. Because your customers can't go anywhere else. That's my thought.
Anybody else like to address the board on this topic?
Does my previous question regarding water businesses?
Yeah, this would include the citations that have been issued to businesses.
So do we have limits that are going to be issued of how much water we can use?
We need to have the witness,
Yes, please, I'm
approach
sorry.
not the witness, but approach the microphone so we can hear what you're saying and get it recorded so that we can have it preserved for posterity. You are a witness, actually, but that may sound awfully formal.
President Montero, if I could, I think the question Olivia is trying to ask, and maybe refer to Dan, I'm going to try to state it for you, is what are the limitations for commercial use? What are the water use limitations?
And the water use limitations just apply to irrigating 2 days a week, or more than 2 days a week, only between the hours of 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. And irrigation cannot result in runoff from ponding or marshy conditions.
None of those affect me particularly.
Right. There is a difference between how the ordinance addresses irrigation customers as opposed to residential customers. Residential customers actually have the water use limit. That limitation does not apply to irrigation customers. So irrigation customers, like a business, would just be limited on how many days a week and hours of the day that you're irrigating, and also you cannot cause runoff, wasting water in the street, things like that.
But her particular business doesn't have landscaping, it's got toilets and bathrooms.
The interior water use for a business that's not a business, let's forget about restaurants, because I wouldn't.
No, not that.
Basically, a sign that's available from our public information staff, posted in the restrooms, please conserve water, and the public outreach, shut off the tap and washing your hands, etc. That's the only indoor water use limitation.
So there's not a limit that is allowed?
Yeah.
You just pay a higher tier. So,
You'll have an economic incentive.
Well, what I'm doing now is I'm finding how many old toilets we have and
Great, thank you.
I'm going to change those out. So I'm recommending to the owners that
But we ought to, see the lady back there in the dark jacket? She's our customer relations person, or, excuse me, our public affairs officer. And she has signs available that you can give all your tenants to post in the bathrooms, to not leave the water running when they're washing their hands, whatever.
Well, they do that.
Yes.
Oh,
But sometimes if you put something in front of them, they'll listen.
Well, I'll tell you, one of my big problems that I have had is that when I do have a problem down there, I do not become aware of it until at least 2 months after it has happened. And all of a sudden, we're presented with this huge bill. And I was not aware that there was a problem.
We can set up the alcohol system.
Yeah.
Well, that was another question. Have you put all those little deals on the...
So you can check it every
It's pretty
single
cool.
day, and you'll know
Love it.
the meat LED at
Yeah,
least.
really cool.
It has been a problem, there's no two ways about it.
Yes, I can imagine it would because you're not down there all the time
Well,
either.
I'm not, and also the bill doesn't come out until at
Yeah.
least 2 months after.
And that's why we wanted you to have the data kind of in real time, because 2 months later it doesn't.
And well, that's what I've always said, the problem's gone, and all I've got is a big bill.
Come on in and call us.
Staff has done a great job in putting that together.
Okay, but, so now I can go and
Check it online,
check it online too for that.
maybe once a
appreciate
week
that.
or whatever.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And we also have recycled water, so if anybody wants to use recycled water, you can actually
She
go
doesn't
over-
have any landscaping
No, no,
yet,
but Eddie-
No.
There's no one.
He's very limited.
Yeah,
You delivered to the...
No, you can pick it up.
okay, wait a minute, we're off.
Public
We can't
hearing.
get on.
She brought it
Do you
up.
have
I
any,
know, I did.
Okay.
do you have anything else?
No, I think that should take care of it. Thank
If you have any further questions, please call our customer service rep. They're there to try and answer your questions and help.
And what I also understand that you are offering donation towards changing out. towards
Yes,
the,
that's
toilets.
correct, we are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Back to the agenda.
This has been an emotional night for people who
Yeah,
knew
we
it.
need to listen.
Okay, let's see, where were we? We closed the public hearing. No, we haven't. We need a
Move to
motion to
close.
close the public hearing.
Move to close.
Okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion unanimously carried. Public hearing is closed.
So we all go home.
Give us another minute.
No, we have to deliberate and vote yet, so.
We haven't voted yet.
Okay. So what do we think?
I personally don't like to put people's names and addresses. I've already had people come up, have press crews show up at people's names of what has been issued already with just names and cities.
I agree.
I don't-
If I
I
had the
think-
press knocking at my
I think-
front door, I'd panic.
I think the press has overstated and overstepped their bounds.
Is there a motion here to just cancel this whole thing? I'll make a motion.
So what, wait a minute, you don't want to do that?
Mr. Halpert hasn't, Director Halpert hasn't.
You ready to edit?
Let's edit.
You're gonna, and you can't
This
just,
requires editing.
It requires them.
Yeah. So if you would defer and allow me, I think that'd probably get you where you want to be.
Okay, let's give it a shot.
All right. Motion to adopt the resolution with some edits.
okay?
We don't normally edit on the fly, but this is kind of
Nice
special.
edit,
like
nice.
As before, we're going to strike all of 1, which starts on page 2. And then for 2, we're going to strike the word other, which means, if I'm doing this correctly, it should be now therefore be it resolved, blah, 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 blah.
Lines are out.
For all requested information related to customer addresses, water usage data, warning letters, citations, and other correspondence with customers related to the warning or citation, the board hereby determines that public interest in disclosure does not clearly outweigh the public interest in non-disclosure. Before the second, I want to make one comment. And
Okay,
if I get a second, I don't want to make one comment.
I'll make a second.
Okay.
I second.
All right, go
I
ahead.
just want to put a little more color on this. Disclosure is important, but we have a program in place that we adopted as a community that we're responsible as a group in the community for enforcing. Our target was 25%, we're at 27% right now, so we're making our marks. I personally don't think we need outside entities to shame people when they run it. We're making our marks as is. The community's doing great. So if they want some records, they can start suing, I guess. Anyway, that's my motion.
I'll second.
Could I ask a clarifying question? It's of the motion maker as well as Mr. Nelson. We mentioned in item number 2, warning letters.
Yeah.
Warning on the second line. I guess you could say that that would be all inclusive, but I may have interpreted that we've already dealt with the warnings already. So
Well,
your
they're
advice to
just-
the motion.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make it
It's suitable
expansive.
to leave it in there just so there's no doubt.
Yeah,
I want to.
I one is
So what does 2 now read?
For all
For all.
requested information, so strike other, and let's do a strike here.
That's it.
My question was, what's the result of the redirecting?
The board, clearly, the board must, in order to release this information, the board must make a determination on a 2/3 vote to adopt a resolution that, in the nature of the determination, is that public interest in release clearly outweighs the public interest in not release. So getting to your question, no action on the part of the board basically does not make that finding or not release. My recommendation to you, and Mr. Nelson would be to, rather than just be silent on it, to clearly, that's the pleasure, to clearly affirm it.
Because we'll hear, I mean, do nothing gets us where we want to be, but, these people have weighed in. Once we do this, the other people are going to weigh in. And they'll weigh in with letters from people, whose name ends with S1.
Other people.
So we want to have as good a record as we can of what we're thinking.
The other people being
The news media.
the news media.
So
yeah.
we'll get
They
letters,
plan to try to
we'll get letters next week.
Because their next step, if they clearly think this is that important, if it's such a slow news day, their next step would be to sue for it.
Which has been done many times.
And we just addressed it all.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adopt a resolution as amended, which indicates that the public interest does not outweigh the public interest to not disclose. Is that correct?
Yes, the public interest in disclosure
Does not
clearly
outweigh.
outweigh the public interest.
Okay.
So a double negative.
Yeah. So, the bottom line is, we don't want to disclose, and we want the press to acknowledge the fact that that's what we said, as well as the public to acknowledge that we said not.
One last thing, because I don't want there to be people confused. Name and city is non-negotiable. We have to give those up for violations.
Yeah.
That's black letter state law.
Yes.
So what we're doing here is we're tailoring this to be as narrow as possibly can, not have the state parameters too. So the name and city has to go.
Because they asked in addition to all of that information,
One
they asked
extra info, which we are
originally.
able to.
Yeah, they asked for usage and name and address and historic usage, and they just asked for the whole thing. So we're saying, no, you get name and city and that's it. Okay?
Questions?
Okay. Call for the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carried.
Welcome to the sausage factory, folks. Thank you.
That took a long time, but I think we got where you wanted
And
us to
thank you
be.
for your input. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you for your patience in bearing with the process. It's
Take time.
a little
Process is
convoluted.
very convoluted. Public
Play by the
agencies
rules.
have to do,
Gotta
yes.
learn how to be good cops. Good practice.
We pay by the
Thank you,
rules
Mr.
because ultimately, we really don't want things overturned.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, let's see, 9F, consider appeal of David Knutson regarding staff denial of an exemption to his water use limitations.
So, point of idea, could I
Certainly.
In the previous item, there was actually 4 letters from customers, all protesting the release of the information. I came in after the agenda preparation, there in front of you, or something like that.
Would it be possible to actually respond to these 4 directly?
We can respond to these 4, we can, respond to
Those four are different than the other ones.
Well,
We'll figure out a way to do it.
yeah, I want him to get word because accepting it in a negative way, it probably isn't going to reach the press.
Yeah, we'll clear, that's a good one. And but it's not only the 4, it's.
Yeah, all the other ones, I'm sorry, I forgot about the ones we'd received prior that were in our agenda. Okay. Mr. Gallagher.
I'm gonna talk.
Okay, this is a process that we discussed a little bit earlier. tonight by which a customer can apply for an exemption from our water use restrictions. This particular case is customer David Newton, who applied for an exemption, and his exemption was denied by staff, and he has appealed that decision to the board. So I'd like to invite Steve Delight to come up to the podium and give us a little bit more background on this particular case. Steve has handled most of our exemption requests, and he's the most familiar with this one.
Hi.
This is one we reported on before. As to continue with our discussion of drought all night, we've received several water use limitation exemption requests over time. We've all stopped to review them, to approve or deny, and as per the ordinance, there is something denied, it would go through the appeal process, just for the first appeal. So Mr. Newsom first received his request for exemption on July 3rd, 2014. The request for exemption was to refill an existing swimming pool. The existing swimming pool, according to the exemption request, had been empty since he purchased the property a couple of years ago. There was two reasons requesting exemption. One was that it was empty when you purchased the home when it rained. Apparently there was a little bit of water at the bottom, and Vector Control said that he needed to do something about the standing water at the bottom. And then we also decided that it was a safety hazard having an empty pool in his backyard. On review and looking at the data information that we knew, we replied on the 17th, July 17th of 2014, but the reply was a denial. The grounds of denial was this pool has been for several or a couple years at least, and why now to fill it back up? Vector Control was empty until we empty. And shortly thereafter, we received the appeal on July 24th, 2014. We put it into that in this for you guys to consider, and I'm sure Mr. Newsom also has information regarding the bill.
Do you have members, Mr. Newsom?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I won't be quick, been an hour, but to make my point, thank you for taking the time and the consideration of this appeal. It is appreciated. My name is David Hughes. I am the owner of 7426 Hanson in Dublin, California. And like most of my esteemed colleagues that have been here, I've only been a resident for Dublin for about 3 years. I did move into that location. I did have construction done on my residence as a result of the construction. There was a fair amount of debris and dirt that was put in my pool as a result of the 14 drain that pool. They drained that pool roughly 18 months ago. When I reviewed ordinance 333, subdivision 7A through B, which is the ordinance that deals specifically with swimming pools, I looked at A, B, and C, and I noticed that B and C did not apply to my situation. A being a situation where there was a new pool, B being a situation in which you had a leak in your pool, C being a situation in which you were a water park. D could possibly apply in my situation, but I don't believe it applies because it specifically states that you have to drain your pool and then refill your pool. Obviously, my pool was previously drained before this ordinance went into place, and therefore I was never on notice or given the opportunity to make that decision with full knowledge of the ordinance. And because my pool was previously drained before the ordinance went into place, I don't believe any provision was in place by this ordinance that prevents me from filling my pool. But in an abundance of caution, I did fill out the exemption form and then here before you today because my exemption was denied. Speaking of notice, is the next transition to my second point about notice, and it was addressed a little bit in terms of the safety hazard. I do believe, without me being on notice about this situation, and now being prevented from rectifying obviously a dangerous situation, it is troubling to me for a variety of reasons. Obviously, if an adult falls into a swimming pool that is filled, they may get out of that swimming pool and complain about the fact that they can actually repurchase their cell phone and they're out of contract or they're not get up for renewal and costing $500. That pool being empty, they would hope that they would just have a broken leg or a broken clavicle or something along those lines. Now, the fact that I'm on notice that there is a dangerous condition in my house, obviously is something that is an attractive nuisance that can be dangerous in terms of litigation. Obviously now I'm in a situation where you certainly are on notice about the situation and obviously are preventing me from rectifying the situation or making it safe for the general public. I have indicated in my appeal process about the vector abatement or the mosquito issue. I won't need to repeat that just to say that that is another issue in response to my belief that this needs to happen.
One report, I believe.
So I just bring that up, and hopefully I was short enough for all of you, but from the moment I moved into here, I've been a limited use water person. I believe that my track record to try that out. I have not watered the lawn for the entire time I've been here. I have not used any of the gas in my food. Obviously, there needs to be exemptions in place and people to be able to apply for these exemptions, and I think that the more reasons. I think my exemption should be granted. Prepared to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you. Any questions?
So an empty pool, a danger to the public, as would be a pool. Right.
I think they are two different dangers, obviously. One danger, a drowning danger, is much more dangerous to a little kid. I'm glad you brought that up. I do have a little daughter who's now 13 months. I have another kid that will be here in a few months. Obviously, that's a danger to me and to my family. So certainly to a little kid it would be dangerous, but for an adult, it's much more dangerous to have an empty pool in a situation where something can fall into that. And if you do look at subdivision D, which I said does not apply to me under 333, subdivision D, it does say that there is a place or an exemption for refilling a pool at the precinct range if it is found to be of a danger or something for the public health. And I do believe that both the mosquito abatement and the change that I talked about in terms of falling, me applying the subdivision D, I do think I fall in subdivision D, but as I said previously, I don't think I really fall into that subdivision. But nevertheless, that's obviously something that was taken into consideration when this ordinance was drafted. It's something that was thought about and obviously it was put in there specifically for these type of situations, but there may be a danger to the public and the need to build something.
Okay, thank you very much.
If you fill your pool, are you covered?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. Okay, discussion.
Well, it certainly has an object to it. It's not a new construction. And you didn't drain it, except for prior to this. So it's very unique. So, I don't know, I'm one of these guys that's still worried about the apartment being the covers off the thing. Evaporating all that water, I think we've already lost that.
Yeah,
So what, you're talking 12,000 gallons?
My pool, no, I think it is bigger than that.
What, 30,000?
I've never owned a pool in my entire life, so I can't estimate that, but it is much larger than 12,000.
That's kind of nice.
We haven't had one before, so Carl, how does this work?
Yeah.
You do by, we have a resolution in front of us, we get a motion to go forward.
Yeah, you can make a motion, you can, to uphold or deny, you can, obviously, ask further questions if you have any questions. Ask questions of staff.
I have a quick question. So if you drained the pool 18 months ago,
No, it was that way when he bought the house.
now you drained it 18 months ago. And so, as you were doing construction, so when did the construction finish?
That's why I applied for it. So the construction just finished June 28th, or somewhere roughly about that time now. And then I was looking to fill it, and because I'm a lifelong California resident, I did understand that there were probably going to be some issues with it, so I did some research, found out online about the exemption process.
I'm sorry, we're going to continue to ask you questions.
Sure.
Could you put
Certainly.
this up here? Thank you.
Otherwise, we won't have a record of what you're saying.
Okay, very well.
Yeah. So restate that.
Yes, sir. So construction ended on my house roughly at the end of June 2014. And then I was looking to fill the pool right after that construction ended to, as I said, rectify the paving situation that was presented. And because I guess it's my nature, more than maybe I should have, if I could have done so blindly with an ostrich, but I was able to figure out that there was potentially place, read the ordinance, go through the extension process, and I filed my extension. And that's what we're doing.
So you asked for permission rather than just fill it in Massachusetts?
That is correct.
Thank heaven, because you wouldn't have liked the bill for sure.
I'd like to make a motion to grant the exemption for a few reasons. One, the construction lights, it's functionally similar to draining the pool during the process of refilling.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, that's why we're
we had the city pool, we had the fire hydrants, and, things happen. It's a significant amount of water, don't waste water, guys, but in the cosmic scheme of things, as we're doing, it's why it's going.
Thanks, sir.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we grant the exemption.
There is one other consideration I just want to call to your attention. In section 4, it refers to specific actions customer proposes to take to achieve a functionally equivalent level of water curtailment. I haven't studied the application, but that's one of the things you should address.
Do we want to require that he has a pool cover?
I'm just putting a question out there because it's part of the consideration process, that's all.
And I consider that my motion's.
I trust that they're full.
I certainly will. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carried.
Thank you very much.
President Bonner, Mr. Newton, if I could, you're very welcome. Just make sure you coordinate with our staff.
I believe there's
allowable times and things for these. So you don't want you to refill them with 100 degrees.
No, that actually, I'm glad we talked about it. I did read that there is specific time frames in terms of filling it up. Is there a specific person I should contact to coordinate that with?
Yes, I was going to give you a list. Okay.
We just want to make sure that filling at peak time in the hot
Yeah.
summer.
Also have a question. Have you been in Aquahawk too? Have you signed up for that
No.
service? Highly recommend.
Oh, are you talking about online research? Yes, I have, yes.
Okay, good. Well, welcome to the community.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let's move to item 10, board member items. Mr. Hockett? Don?
I just want to remind everybody that on next Thursday, no, it's tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is Thursday night is the McCormick Rose Garden dedication. And so I really want to make sure we did support that, and I hope I see everybody out there at 5:30 at the Rose Garden in Emerald Glen Park.
My wife, I'll be up
I plan
I'll be there.
on speaking on behalf of DSRSD.
Excellent.
You have anything?
No.
Okay, the only thing I have is I attended the Contra Costa County Special Districts Association, which, by the way, is significantly different than ours because they have so many special districts. They have a ton of recreation districts. They held their election meeting first because Dwight Meadows had passed away, and so they needed to elect a new LAFCO representative. So they had that formal meeting first, and then they had the special district meeting. The first guest speaker was Luann Tixera, who some of you may remember was an assistant manager here in Dublin. She's now, or has been for actually quite a few years, the executive director of Contra Costa County LAFCO. She talked about the newer Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg bill of 2000, which changed some of the LAFCO laws, one of which was requiring LAFCOs to do municipal service reviews every 5 years. And so they look at all the special districts, they look at everything, actually, cities and all of those things. They typically only handle boundary changes, I shouldn't say only, they handle all boundary changes except county lines, transit districts, highway districts, Mello-Roos districts, and benefit assessment districts, which I had not heard before, but as you know, I'm new to the LAFCO seat, so I'm still learning that part of it. But in the process, they found a new community services district, and it actually is a unit that's been around for about 50 years. It serves 55 residents with water. It's called the Castle Rock Community Services District, so they all thought that was rather interesting, that a services district could exist without anybody knowing about it. The next speaker was Lisa Vorderbergen. She now works for DIA of the Bay Area. One of the things that actually I got a kick out was the fact that somebody asked her how to get the word out. And if you recall, she worked many years for Lesher, for Contra Costa Times. She said, don't bother using newspapers, use Facebook. Did Sue hear me? She didn't hear me. Darn. Anyway, she was talking about home building in the area and how it's somewhat come back, but not 100%. And if you all might remember, she's the reporter responsible for the 2000 toilet to tap campaign, which, if you recall, was not one of my favorite things that she did. Anyway, the rest of the meeting was dedicated to their business change, the business part of their meeting, which was their minutes and the money they had and whatnot. But the two speakers were really interesting, and there was a large group. There was probably about 50 people, would you say, there? Yeah, so it was different than ours. One of the things I wasn't too sure of is we don't hold any kind of a voting seat there. And is that because Alameda County is our county? Okay, that's all I have.
President Vladimir, if I could maybe ask you to append to your report, note that Director Duarte was there
Oh, yes.
at the meeting. Of course, they could not make this meeting, so you may have to ask for special consideration of this report. Just at least like the record to be kept.
Okay, yes, that is true. Ed was there. And I know he's got a special dispensation for tonight because of his mother. Did you want me to say something about these?
Yeah, these are, I don't know, do we have bumper stickers yet? Well, I can get you some. This is another sample of some bumper stickers that are floating around.
If
So
it
you
really
guys,
bothers you, you can cut out the East Bay Mud logo.
well, what's your one? What's your one?
Actually, as I was telling Don earlier, I have 3 of East Bay Mud posters taped to my garage door, which makes me look and stand out in the neighborhood, but that's okay. My one is as brown as everybody else's. Gold, it's gold.
Gold.
Okay.
And
Any
you
other-
can get signs for that, too.
Anything else? Okay.
As we move into closed session, I believe we don't need to go
Okay. So 11A goes away, but we're in for 11D. This time, the board will be going into closed session for one closed session item on the agenda. While this board meeting will continue, the broadcast will be stopped at this time because it is anticipated there will be no report from the closed session. If there is a report, it will be announced at the end of the closed session and open session of this meeting. If you're interested in what that report is, please contact District Secretary Nancy Hatfield during regular business hours for that information. Thank you very much.
Thanks for these. Thanks, Sue, for
Thank
these.
you.
Thank you, Sue.
What was it we decided to do?
You're on. Thank you, Steve.